We're overthinking it, boys. We're overthinking it. Bryce is trying to mess us up with the clap. Well,
he's starting us.
Oh, God dang it. Welcome to the Movie Podcast.
Watch out for that turtle.
We're your hosts today. I'm Dylan. This is Bryce. That's Mason, and that one's Nathan.
That's us.
And
just take this fence out real quick.
Yeah, today we are talking about...
Just take the fence out.
We're talking about the Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
I just remembered, actually. I watched it again.
I just watched it today.
I'm never getting those 5 hours back.
It was 3 hours, thank you.
Felt like more. So...
Sure does.
Before we get into all of that, so as you can tell, we're playing video games. Also, look at us. We're a multi-functioning podcast. Now we have a multifaceted, whole plan here. I'm taking this TV.
I'm taking this gnome, dude.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
What game are we playing, just for everybody at home?
We are playing Moving Out. Mm-hmm. It is very much in the vein of Overcooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so nothing at all to do with the Hateful Eight, really.
Yeah, none of the game. Oh, there's a turtle after me, but that's not important. What's important is we're talking about Hateful Eight. Just so y'all know what game we're playing, there you go. And let's get into it. So, summary for Hateful Eight. Price. You go ahead and summarize that.
You're gonna make me do it?
Oh yeah, yeah, we insist.
You made us watch it.
Yeah.
Well, the plot is fairly simple. Honestly, it's more of the minutia where it gets kind of complicated, I guess. Where you have our main character, Samuel Jackson, Major Warren. He's by himself. He's in the woods. His horse died, and he gets picked up by the Hangman, played by Kurt Russell. It has Daisy Domergue.
Daisy Domergue.
That's one of the few characters I vividly remember her name because they said it every 2 minutes.
Everybody loves alliteration.
They pick Samuel Jackson up. They keep on going. Then they keep on going, and then they find Mannix. I forgot his first name, but it's Mannix, something like that. Basically, this racist guy who has a racist dad. They pick him up, bring him to the Daisy's haberdashery, and
Minis.
Yeah, not Daisy.
Yeah.
Get up on out of here.
You want to throw that one?
And then they meet a whole bunch of new people, and then the main plot comes into the movie. The main plot comes in whenever who's the first person? The first person who died. Well, the general was the first person.
Yeah. The general.
But the plot doesn't really kick in until somebody poisons the coffee, and Kurt Russell and
OB.
OB,
the driver.
Poor OB.
Poor OB.
I had to keep going out in the blizzard all the time. I felt so bad for him when he drew the short
OB
straw.
was the OG.
The second time, and he comes back in, it's like, I will not go out in this damn blizzard again.
I almost died. And then he gets poisoned.
And then Mannix comes out and he's like, are you gonna be all right? She's like, I just need to be warm.
Mm.
Yeah. You know what really warms me up? Poison coffee.
Yeah.
Man, talk about a violent way of going to.
That was.
I don't know what was
violent.
in that, but just the spewing of blood.
Oh,
and then
I'll tell you what was in it.
Gets
That-
it like spewed on her own face.
Regular moonshine is what was in that. If,
Yeah.
if it was filtered through
Regular.
sulfa, that's exactly what it looked like whenever I had an ulcer.
Help.
Like, that's how I
Are you
knew.
vomiting like that?
Dude, yes. Like, no exaggeration. I look like a blood dragon.
When did that happen?
That was like whenever I was like 20, like 19, 20, something like
That
that.
sounds awful.
Oh, it was miserable. But we're not here to talk about me throwing up a bunch of blood. We're here to talk about Hateful Eight. So yeah, I mean, as Price alludes, this is technically a little period piece movie. This is set, post-Civil War, not terribly far off. But it kind of turns into like Cabin Whodunit as the movie kind of progresses in that way.
Yeah, surprise. Here.
Which, upon rewatch, let's just go ahead and get into like what we disliked about it. I'll say that like it was one of the elements that I remember I enjoyed from the movie.
Yeah.
Was that it has a little fun with itself. All Quentin Tarantino movies do, but being a little whodunit themed, I remember thinking was a little bit more fun this time around because honestly I forgot that was kind of like the main crux of the film was the.
That's basically Clue.
Yeah, essentially.
Pretty much.
But
It's
no
a
one's
very
a good.
short
But no
film.
one's a good character.
Nobody's a good character. Everybody dies, and it's just bad Clue. But yeah, I mean, going back in, there's a couple things that really stick out to me as far as like things that I enjoyed. the whodunit aspect I really enjoy, obviously, as I just said. But I also came back and remembered how much of the signature score on this movie is. Like, just for the signature one. The rest of it just kind of feels like okay to me. But the
You want to
burner.
talk about the score, having Jack White just randomly in it.
What was that?
Like really early on. That's the
Oh,
only
yeah,
modern
I remember
song
what you were
that
talking
plays.
about.
Right.
And it
I
just
know what you're talking
cuts abruptly whenever the camera is back on Domergue
Right.
without much explanation.
They did that a couple times. I noticed that on my most recent rewatch. That like it has a song playing and then just scene transition
Right.
into dialogue. Like, that's
like
an
hard
odd choice.
Yeah.
There was a couple weird choices thinking on some of that stuff. I remember like things that stuck out a little bit bigger on the second rewatch were like not necessarily negatives, but just kind of jarring. Like that's a weird choice to include. Was I remember thinking in tail end of the movie they're sitting there kind of doing like a recap chapter to say like, oh, here's how the gang gets all set up because it's all like one big plot
With
to get
Channing
these,
Tatum.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't worry, I'll talk about him plenty. But yeah, he's sitting there speaking French to Minnie or whatever.
Hey, tell me my
Ass
ass
is
is
fat.
fat. Yeah,
Well,
it is.
Yeah, that whole segment, like that specific segment of lines, I remember thinking was like, why is this in this movie?
Yeah,
Like,
that one did not.
It's
belong.
it kind of makes me think of referencing another video of ours, our Last of Us 2 review.
I've never seen it.
You read it.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
But
That's weird because it is up on the channel.
like
Ah.
talking about The Last of Us 2, it's kind of like when they do like the flashbacks through Abby's perspective, and you're like, I know what happens to all these characters. I'm not wanting to spoil it, but you're like, I know what happens to them.
Right.
Why do I care about them? Like, why are you going back and making me watch them? And I felt the same way about all the characters in that flashback, and that was a part for me that this is like my fourth time rewatching it, something like that, and that
Yeah.
part really dragged for me. I agree.
All of the
Because the
flashbacks.
action like picks up right before that,
Which is part of the problem too, is like if they're gonna do that,
just like
you,
The Last of Us 2.
you
It's
have-
exactly like
yeah,
that.
it is. But
Yeah.
you really have to. Somebody tell me if that's able. Like, do it before the action, right? Because it feels very out of place with it being right after the action. Because the pace sideways, Nathan.
I'm trying.
Yeah, the pace really just shifts in the movie because you have this film and it has its climax, and
Well-
then it pseudo climax, right? Like, sure, I guess it does pander a little bit more because they. Anyway, I'll get to that. So you have like truthfully like the real climax, and then there's like the post climax afterwards, which essentially is to say everybody shoots each other, and the whole like it all comes out in the wet works, right? And then they reveal.
Just like The Office, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they do like a follow-up one to tell you why everybody was the way that they were doing, and then there's a little bit more climax after that. But see, it's stuff like that like I remember drove me up the wall the first time I watched it because I was like, okay, the movie could have ended right there. And then they did the extra part where they explained that why all the characters were at the cabin and how they were part of the inside job with this. But I'm like, okay, that should have definitely been before everybody starts blasting each other. Like,
Well, but at the same time, then you would have known all of the. You can't throw those.
Yeah, no. If you catch them.
Oh, okay. But anyway, like if you would have known that beforehand, like it would have taken all of the mystery out. Because like you don't know who's.
I mean, right. I don't want to know it right
anything.
before. Like, maybe do
Yeah.
like a midway cut or at least a shooting pause scene, like where it's just like the bullets start flying and they're like, let's talk about how we got here for a second. You know, like one of those little segments. I don't know. For me, it just felt like too stop and go. Like somebody suddenly was punching the gas and then they slammed the brakes on me and then
Yeah.
they put the gas up again and then did
I think the
brakes again.
scene was needed. It just needed to be placed at a different moment in
Right.
the film. Like
Well,
where it's at now, I did not enjoy. it.
The like talking about just being in the middle of the action and cutting to something else entirely. I feel like that is not the first time that Quentin Tarantino has done that.
I mean, definitely not. But it's if anything, it's typically my gripes with it. I mean, Kill Bill, I can think of probably does it at least a time or two.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. 100%.
specifically what I'm thinking of is that Kill Bill does that a few times.
Right. That being said, though, I feel like narratively speaking, and I like how I have to rewatch it and call myself out on this, and I'm sure I'm probably wrong a little bit on this one, but I feel like narratively speaking, they typically wrap up the story and then they come back to go do it, like to do a little bit of like the overall
Stuff
arc.
across the pond.
So it's a little different because this one has like one main theme story, right? Where Kill Bill is like an overall story going on with like 7 little. Like, okay, I guess it compares pretty closely because there's chapters. It breaks down the same way, but each little character has its own little story arc in Kill Bill. Whereas this is everybody's story arc is the same story arc.
Yeah. Well, it's all it's all meant to kind of interweave and
Right.
be like everybody's more important than you think they are.
Right. I guess the moral, like what I'm getting at here is, I feel like that. Yeah, Kill Bill definitely is guilty of some of that stuff, but it feels more narratively cohesive, whereas Hateful Eight feels a little bit more jarring in the way they went about it.
See, I disagree because I think like the main thing that this movie did was stick with its central theme of just staying in the cabin, revolving around these characters, and I feel like they did do that, where they it was all about the characters, all about telling their story, and how they all connect with each other.
Oh, now it's gonna fall out.
Which, I mean, that's what I came for. That's why I love this movie so much. It's just, like, the way I would sell it to somebody, which I would never recommend this to somebody unless I knew them very well, because it's a long movie.
Yeah.
Or you put it on a wheel and we're gonna spin it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, what are the odds that it would happen?
Shut up, Nathan! You keep saying that and it keeps being every time.
But the main, like, how I would describe this movie is, if you've seen Inglourious Basterds and you've seen the bar scene, imagine that, like, 30-minute scene, but 3 hours of it. Pretty much is...
Yeah.
Except less
The movie.
interesting than the bar scene.
I disagree. There's some real standout moments.
Yeah, one
in
thing, going back to talking about score and stuff too, though, that I noticed that I felt was really weird, is it had a lot of tense music and like discordant music happening at moments when nothing actually was going on. Like whenever those they were out there staking down the line of rope, and that music was just like so cacophonous, and it just made you feel like, okay, is this guy about to kill this other guy? Is that why the music's being this way? Like,
why
is that
are they
what
focusing so much on them tying a rope? You know, like what gives?
And again, in theory, like that's supposed to be kind of be like building the tone and suspense, but in execution for me, it just felt like I was like, okay,
like,
you're flexing your score, like that's all.
Well, to me, the score ended up being there just to like make you think something was gonna happen, and then fake you out, and nothing happened.
But I think when you look at Hateful Eight's runtime, these are the things to me that stick out where I'm like, this is extra. Like, this whole scene is not necessary to do what the movie's already doing. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. It's like you want to talk about if this movie's fat or thin or whatever. Like, it was those parts that you could trim up. You know, that whole stake in the line. I appreciated the stable scene where he, you know.
I love that where Samuel Jackson was talking to the Mexican guy.
Yeah.
Oh man, where he was like quizzing him, like because it all comes back together.
That one is necessary because I would say that strangely is like probably one of the most important scenes in the whole movie because it sets the idea that you're in. Oh, things aren't necessarily as it seems, and this is kind of what creates the whodunit like clue premise to it.
Yeah, exactly, and then it leads to like because you notice that Samuel Jackson knows that something's going on, and then. Like, it leads into the final scene where he has him lined against the wall and is like, I've already had my suspicions with you, Senor Bob or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but the one thing that Minnie would never do is have a Mexican in charge. He's like, bah, 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 bah.
Yep, and then we started blasting. Right, right.
Well, so the thing is, I mean, she didn't seem to have a problem with him whenever he first got there. Whenever we cut back to that, like,
right, which
scene in
I remember
past.
thinking it's weird that her interactions
It's more of him
show.
putting him in charge, is what
Samuel
Jackson.
But if whenever I watch the movie and it shows many scenes, Minnie's didn't particularly stick out to be like particularly racist on it. When that stuff kind of bothers me. If we're gonna do a little show and tell, it was just like, all right, well, based off, Samuel Jackson's character, that's what he would say. But whenever I saw Minnie chilling, she didn't seem to say anything any remotely racist about Mexicans, and having that in place. So, again, for a movie that is 3 hours long, you have to be pretty epic in your storytelling scope, or it needs to be a lot of like attention to detail paid off.
We have no chance of doing this one.
No, I don't know what's going. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. No, we're gonna just.
Well, I figured it out up until about.
Yeah, I was like, why are we 0 out of 30?
It took me until about 10 seconds ago to figure out what the hell we're supposed to be doing.
I still didn't get it, but
I have no idea.
Okay, I've got to talk about the odd chicken out in this one. Channing Tatum. I remember it was incredibly jarring the first time I saw it.
It was jarring
and
the first time.
It's still jarring the second time.
I liked his cameo. I liked him.
So here's my only issue with it. I liked him, but then it was like a scapegoat. It was like alright, you know what? Samuel L. Jackson has everyone figured out. It's all hunky-dory. It's all in the whole scheme. and then you throw someone in the basement.
Yeah.
And it's
Well-
just a wrench in the whole thing, and you're like, I feel like I got blindsided. It didn't quite deserve. I liked it because that was her brother, and that was like, you know, the whole cause for it. Still, it was jarring, like you said.
Yeah, he was like the whole like reason that they were all there in the first place, and he was the leader of the pack and everything. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
I
if
thought
you
it made
wanna-
total sense.
My thing with that is, if there's one thing I remember about this movie, it's that there's someone hidden in the basement.
Yep.
Yeah, and they blow off Samuel Jackson's dick.
I don't even remember that. Like, literally,
Oh.
the main thing I remembered about this movie before rewatching it this time was just, the chairs don't want to stay in there.
Yeah,
you
they run
kidding
away.
me?
They run away. Yeah. Basement, Samuel Jackson's dick.
Yeah.
Are the two things I distinctly remember from this movie, because this whole story about making that one guy's son suck his dick, I remember it was like
that is my favorite part of the movie. That monologue that
I
Samuel
en-
Jackson gives.
I enjoyed that because at that point you thought that Bruce Dern's character was one of the bad guys.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you were like, you know what, this asshole, he kind of deserves. I just got eaten by a piano. But like the whole time you're like, you know what? Yeah, screw that old guy. Like he's a racist. He's a bastard.
He's an
you
old
know.
Confederate.
Well, yeah, he
bastard
talked about
general.
like blowing, like
Yeah,
just killing a
but
bunch
then-
of people
But
because
then
they
it
couldn't
is a
feed
little
them.
bit
Yeah.
like, oh no, you know that story does kind of suck. Like that
Yeah.
that hits harder.
And I stuck my big black Johnson.
Big back black pecker. Like all.
And it was,
Oh man,
Like
I never did
credit
give
where-
him that blanket.
that
Yeah.
monologue was so good.
Credit where credit's due. Samuel L. Jackson really
Oh,
shows his chops in his
incredible.
storytelling with this stuff. Like, this movie definitely needed to lean on his ability to be able to just execute some of that stuff. And I think, obviously Quentin and Samuel have a pretty good relationship for that.
Oh yeah, they've done so many movies
Yeah.
together.
But yeah, I like it, and it's definitely narratively fits sense. But it's one of those weird things that sticks out to me in the movie. I'm like, man, this goes on for a while. Like, it goes on for a little bit, and I think that's
literally this movie.
that's
Yeah,
exactly
that's
my
the whole point
point.
of the
Is
movie.
so much of the movie for me is like, man, this goes on for a little bit longer than what is probably like I think.
But I'm fine with that because I think it's Tarantino indulging in what he's best at, which is script writing and characters. And those are the two biggest things for me in any movie I watch is
I need help with this.
is
I got
script and characters.
Hang on.
And this
Let the ghost
movie
go.
and this movie pays it off in spades. I mean, every character like Mannix, you're like, I'm never gonna like this guy. He's a racist. He's awful. And at the end of the movie, you're like almost cheering for him because like him and Samuel Jackson
Yeah.
are like friends by that point. And when she's like offering him that deal, and he's like, no deal, and she
Yeah.
starts screaming. You're like, I can't believe I'm cheering for this guy now.
Yeah.
And Samuel Jackson, you're like, oh, he's our good guy. Who's who we're going to be with? And you realize he's a pretty bad person himself.
Yeah.
Like the only person who's really good is Kurt Russell
Mhm.
in the whole movie, and
And
he
he's
kinda
a guy
says
who
that way.
insists on hanging everybody instead of killing them. So
Well, yeah, because he's got
I
this like this idealistic way of
don't let
viewing
the
people.
hangman. I believe he should do that, right? But
Yeah, he just has a naive way of looking at people, and it bit him in the end.
So, the funny thing is, like, you mentioned that, like, this is some of, like, Quentin Tarantino at his best. Like, you think that this is some of that stuff. But,
You're only wanting to say negatives here.
well, that will reflect in my score. But,
I know you've only said negatives.
no, I said the score was good, and I enjoyed the, like, whodunit factor coming back to it. Don't see this guy, hyperbole. Look it up,
Oh.
and it's his picture right there in it. But, that being said, like, I didn't feel that this was his strongest in a lot of ways. And for me, this maybe comes down to more of some of an actor problem than an execution problem, because like it has, how Quentin Tarantino likes to write lines that are like kind of cheesy and corny by nature, but they're going to be executed really well, and some reason they play in his movies, right?
Mhm.
Like it felt like there was an abundance of machismo in this movie, and maybe the execution for some of this stuff really didn't land for me. But I remember thinking like, I can't think of a line off the top of my head, but a couple of Kurt Russell's lines just didn't really stick the landing for me, and a couple of just like everybody's repeatings of it is like, I don't know, there was this weird thing that I just didn't buy it on this one. Like I was like, this is how people who don't like Quentin Tarantino watches his movies, and I remember thinking that throughout.
I mean,
it.
you're right. This is very like.
I got you.
This would not be the first Tarantino movie that I would ever
No,
suggest to any.
never.
It's not great. I mean,
Django would probably be the one I would say.
I've not
Based
seen
on our
that one,
scores,
so-
I would say Inglourious Bastard
Yeah,
would have been
yeah.
the one.
Oh yeah, because that's our number one movie.
No.
Yeah.
Whoop whoop whoop.
Just because it won a bracket doesn't mean it's number one.
Yeah, it does.
Uh,
This is the most conceited number one.
So you know what? I'm gonna discuss the other elephant in the room. Oh wow, that was it.
I could still talk about Channing Tatum being
So,
inappropriate, but go ahead.
The N-word was used in this movie.
Have you seen
hundreds
Django
of-
Unchained?
I think
was
it actually,
Unchained.
I think it actually eclipsed Django.
I think it
No,
beat it.
it's lower.
Uh,
I'll look.
I don't know, man.
It didn't beat it.
It
I'll
got-
look.
It reminds me of back when South Park had one episode way back in the day that was able to use the S word, since we're not cussing yet.
What?
Yes, on,
I thought we
on
have
the
been.
network television.
Yeah.
We've been
Oh.
swearing
Yeah.
a lot in this podcast.
Alright, so they
Yeah.
use shit like a ton on
The
Comedy
S
Central.
word. He said the poopy word.
And the thing was, before the episode aired, the whole week beforehand, probably the whole month, they made sure to promote it. They said, this episode is going to be epic. It's going to have language in it. And during the episode, there was a little ticker up at the very top. Every time they used it, it would go up one notch.
I do remember that.
Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
This is how the N-word was.
I
in this
get what
movie.
you're saying with this, but I don't think so. Like,
It was
mean,
like
that's how it,
Tarantino
it's
was
how,
like, you
but-
know what?
But
This is
that's
our
how it
chance.
would have been used in this period. Like, the thing that they nailed so well in this movie is setting.
Yeah.
And, like, all the verbiage and stuff they use, like, Samuel Jackson calling it his Johnson. Like, who does that anymore? And
Yeah.
just all the, like
Well,
their
except for
vocabulary.
the fat ass part, which as we've
The
already
fat
pointed out.
ass, I would agree with that. I doubt they were talking about fat asses.
That was unnecessarily modern. Yeah.
But
Ghost of Baby.
I feel like it was
Yeah.
necessary. Like, when I think of a
Don't
movie
shoot me, too.
not using curse words correctly, I almost think of Wolf of Wall Street. How one of the big things like they promoted with that movie is that it says the F word more than like any movie ever,
Mm-hmm.
and it was promoted like that. I'm like that. It just doesn't feel like that's needed
Yeah.
in that kind of movie. But the N word I think was used to the movie's advantage in
Sparingly?
this. No, not sparingly.
No.
It was not sparingly.
It was incredibly not sparing.
Like,
Very
especially when Bruce Dunn's character is like, least of all,
Mhm.
like he yells it. Like,
Mhm.
and Mom was in the room when I was watching it. She was like, "Wow."
Yeah, Katie, that's all she heard. I was like,
yeah.
Yeah.
This
Oh,
thing
if you're a
is-
bystander listening and only catching every other
Oh,
line,
that's
you think
not
this
good.
movie is nothing but that. Like the script is
Well,
just that.
yeah, because it's definitely like a word that stands out.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Well, that and somewhere along the way, when Quentin Tarantino was writing scripts with Samuel L. Jackson, he just had to have him in the room and say, "Hey, do I get a pass on this?" And he said, "As much as you want." And that's what it felt like. Somewhere around Pulp Fiction or something like that, Tarantino was like, "I'm gonna fucking use this word every second."
yeah,
I
that's
get a
what it
chance
felt
to."
like.
And like,
I think it's
it's
mostly
fitting within
because
the segment, but
Sure, it is fitting in the era.
in the context
but
and setting of the thing of the
I
movie. right,
think Tarantino likes using it because he knows that it
Oh,
makes people uncomfortable.
but-
Yeah,
100%.
it's tension,
yeah,
like,
he's one of those
exactly,
people that does like pushing people's buttons.
Mhm.
So I do agree with that.
Um,
What did you all?
This ghost,
did
this
you all
ghost.
like the voiceover or whatever that they
the
did?
screenplay element where they sit there and kind of give you the the
Yeah,
time?
where that-
I didn't really like
Who
that.
was that?
That was Tarantino.
That was
Oh,
Tarantino's,
was it?
Yeah.
I thought it might be him voicing over.
I
Yeah,
actually
I didn't loathe that. I didn't like it either.
I loathe it because it has the I get
Yeah.
it that it's your kind of if it's like explaining a movie trivia fact to you, right? It's just like, oh, I wanted this like I want this to be a screenplay and this is wrote to be as a screenplay, but I'm writing it as or making it as a movie, and I'm like, okay, and then he has the screenplay element as if it was like a play, and I'm like, in theory, I get it, like cool, but in execution, I was just like, this is janky, like
Yeah, I didn't like it because I knew it was coming and I was watching it with more of like a critical eye, and I was just imagining what this would be like if all we did was take out the audio of him talking. You would lose nothing.
Yeah.
Literally
Yeah.
nothing. Like you see them doing everything, like and somebody poisoned the coffee and it has somebody pouring something very sketchy into the coffee.
right.
My big boy fox catcher brain could catch that, that's poison somebody's putting in there. I don't need somebody
Yeah.
being like, hey buddy, he's poisoning it.
Mhm.
Like,
Now, if they're gonna
I
like, here's
think
the
that was
thing: if
needed.
you're doing a movie, you get to have this magical ability to show and not tell. And even in a playwright, it's kind of harder because you're kind of summing up all the stuff that you would be like doing with special effects or movies and like extra scenes and stuff like that. But for him to do both in it is just a little too much. Like
it's too much, man.
it's trying too hard to just be a screenplay, but also be a movie. It's having a cake and eating it, which at times I usually like Quentin Tarantino for. But again, this is, I don't know, a couple of things in this movie just make it that I had a hard time like enjoying his embellishment. I usually do. I'm like, yeah, I like a lot of Tarantino's movies, most of them. But
We've
this one
watched
has
quite a
flaw.
few.
I know. But yeah, this
we
one
made
just,
one of them our favorite in a bracket.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
So
The best movie picker here.
that's not true. Okay,
man.
sure. That's what your takeaway is. But
Yeah, it definitely is. So you all didn't think, like, for somebody, Mason, I thought you would have brought it up that the cast is so stacked in this movie. Because I was watching our Nightcrawler review,
it's not
and
as
you were
good as an
saying,
Inception.
and you were saying that, like, you didn't like that it's just a one-man show, and
Gotcha.
this one, I feel like it's not a one-man show at all. Like, everybody gets a chance to really shine
it
in this
wasn't
movie.
that they were like
Except
all
for maybe
incredible.
OB. I feel like he does.
OB, yeah, gets ripped.
Well, he's not even in the, like, 8. He's not part of the Hateful Eight, so
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to get too much screen time.
Damn shame.
But I thought, like, that was one of the big things of this movie is that everybody felt like they shared the screen equally almost, and everyone did really well. Tim Roth's character, I was kind of on the fence on.
Tim Roth's
Wasn't
character
too
stands
big
out
of
as charismatic, but unnecessarily. Like,
Yeah, he acts kind of over the top.
right. And again, Quentin Tarantino, over the top. Like, what are you complaining? You should know what you signed up for. It's like, I get it, but at the same time, it's just like, did we need him to be British? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it felt like an art school joke. You know, like that you just have like some international person in there just because.
Well, they also had someone from New Zealand.
Exactly.
That to me seemed kind of jarring.
Yeah,
that
I'm like,
that
what is
character's
she
from
doing
New
in
Zealand.
Wyoming?
It's like,
Like,
how?
oh.
Like, why did she end up here?
The blonde chick
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the
that gets
flashback.
shot. Yeah.
Who is honestly delightful, but
yeah.
I know. And then just gets blown apart for
Yeah.
no reason.
by worse Bill's brother in this one. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I got this ghost. Nope, no, I don't. Here you go. I just
Need
keep
help with
smacking
this
him.
I
fridge
don't-
up top.
I don't think that can fit through that door.
I think you're right. We've been trying for like 5 minutes.
I got you, bud. I got you.
But yeah, so as far as like the cast, it wasn't that they were all just incredible. It was just I liked how much they gave all of them the same amount of lines. Like they didn't focus on Bruce Dern too much compared to Bob. They didn't. Every single
We'll go out the other
person
way.
had.
We're back.
All right, so Mason, you were talking about how everybody in the movie had the same amount of lines
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to finish your thought, or is your thought complete?
Yeah, I liked how it was distributed.
I mean, yeah, it was
It's
well.
trapped in here too.
You know, the dialogue.
Just gotta go back up this way.
I'm trying to think of one person who didn't have as many lines as anybody else, and I don't know of any.
Yeah, besides OB, gone too soon.
Poor OB.
OB had
Rest
some
in
lines.
pieces.
How do you smack this ghost?
X.
X.
Oh.
Yeah, that's me.
Now we're just smacking each other.
Yeah.
I mean, was there like any like what were the standout moments for you all? Because I mean, I already told you mine.
Channing Tatum. Oh, we're talking good standouts. or
I mean,
bad
like good.
standouts?
Okay, let's go on that. Let's keep talking about Channing Tatum.
All right,
Like,
I want to finish my thought. on it.
why is I don't get why he bugs you so much because I
He just-
thought he was fine.
He I don't. It's a mix of several things. I don't like his introduction, like coming in from the basement.
Why?
It feels kind of forced. Like it was like, oh, well,
Well, you got
the
this
movie's
one.
all kind of resolving itself, and then for an extra hour, we can have one more character involved in this. And to be honest, I don't think he's totally necessary. Like, any one of those people could have been the brother, and they didn't need to have an extra person in the basement just to sit there and do that. But then, not only is it that, but it's Channing Tatum being French-Mexican. And that sentence in itself says all I need to sort to say, but sure, like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe he was practicing for Gambit,
I died.
which did not ever get made, but he was,
That's a good way to put it.
I don't know, he kind of overacts in this one compared to everybody else. Like, he just feels like not a part of this movie. Like, everything in the context and the characters all seem to flow very well and fit in it, but he sticks out to me. Not only just in his entrance, but as, like, his character delivery. But maybe that's me. I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that I'm like, why the fuck is Channing Tatum this character? Like,
All right,
and I like Channing Tatum.
Where does
but-
everybody else land on his cameo?
Yeah.
It was
Um,
okay. It was just jarring.
I think that somebody was hiding in the basement without any
Anybody ever once checking?
indication that was going on. Like, I wasn't paying close enough attention. Is there any like subtle nod to the fact that that's even happening up until the point that it's revealed?
Well, you kind of get hinted that like there's more bad people in the room because I noticed it on this one, which I thought was really neat. Whenever Kurt Russell throws his stew onto Daisy, in the very back, like in the like blurry background, you see Joe Gage stand up like he's fixing to do something, which I thought was really neat. But in terms of like is somebody in the basement, I don't think so. Like, I don't think you ever hear someone just like, "What's down there?" or like, they got bad mice or something.
It
Like,
seems
well,
like
there's like
anything of that.
one shot where it's kind of over the top as
Right.
somebody's walking, and you can kind of see rafter beams. And that's the one moment where I was looking to be like, okay, is there going to be like some glimpse of some gap in the wood or something where you see somebody? And I didn't really notice at that moment either.
Right.
I don't think it was hinted too
No,
much at all.
I don't like.
And
They
that, like, that to me just kind of feels like you're getting cheated a little bit. Especially with Samuel L. Jackson's character having it so figured out.
don't. Right.
And then he just, like, the one thing that he couldn't have figured out is the thing that gets him.
Mm-hmm.
I did like how Channing Tatum says says say to my huevos or something. He says it in Spanish, and that's almost like verbatim what they say in Inglourious Bastards, where he's like if I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna speak the language of gentlemen or something. He's like, say goodbye to your nasi balls. So I don't know what it is with the Tarantino and testicles, but apparently he likes blowing them off in his movies. Okay, but
I don't know a better segment into the question, I guess, with that one.
Yeah.
Somebody hold that bridge.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, works for me. Does anybody else have like any more like kind of broad things to say about the movie before the question?
Nope.
Nothing's really. Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk too much, I guess, about some of the build up to it, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I was kind of thinking of it as in comparison.
like a lot of that movie did take place in the trip to.
I'd say at least 45 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
Because they had that whole conversation in the stagecoach. They have two conversations in there. And I did like the Lincoln letter whenever Daisy
so good.
when she spin on it.
Yeah.
Oh my! Well, I liked it whenever it was a reveal.
Oh,
that
yeah,
he had been lying
yes,
about.
he
He
like-
actually wasn't.
He's like, yeah, it was a lie. And
Yeah, and like
then everyone laughed.
Well, I don't.
And then Daisy did at that point, and that's when he threw the stew on her.
Yeah. So, I don't know why he really would have done that either, though, other than
Well, he
just
said-
like.
Oh, I totally
Disarming
get it.
white people. Like,
Disarming
Yeah,
white
well,
people. I totally get it.
not that he did it, but
Oh, that he actually
revealed
confessed that, yeah.
it was not real.
No, yeah, I think that it feels a little.
Except to the extent that his character just hates white people.
Right.
And
He
knew that would
definitely
be
does.
something he would enjoy was just seeing the look on
Kurt
the
Russell's-
hangman's
yeah.
face whenever that was revealed to have
Okay,
been a
somebody hold
lie
this
the whole
table.
time.
Yeah, I like that reveal and thought it was worth it.
Maybe it's Maybelline, but let's talk about the question, guys. What's the question, Price?
Oh, you think I got the question? Why don't you come up with a question?
I don't like it.
I mean,
All right, blunt enough. Okay, so if you were going to recommend a Tarantino movie to somebody for their first one, which one would you pick, and why is it Django?
It's not. It's. Oh, God, dang it, this table. I mean, I'll go first because I know I'm gonna do Kill Bill.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I'm
well,
sorry for those people.
I am too.
Volume 1, the one that you guys unanimously liked. You're right. I'm a fool. Check your own
Well,
reviews.
like
you cunts.
compared to 1 and 2.
Yeah, but then they're gonna be like, "Oh, I love this movie. It was so good. Should I watch 2?"
And then I'm gonna say yes
No.
because it's great.
Yeah, don't forget, he gave it a higher score.
I gave
He
2
does
a
like
higher
2
score than
better.
1 on
I
rewatchability.
do not
stage.
understand that.
Yeah, well, again, if you want to know all my opinions on how much I enjoy Kill Bill 1 and 2, then you can go check out that review. But yeah, I stand to it. That for me, I feel like it is Quentin Tarantino, some of his best work as far as that stuff goes. Like, I think it's, if you want to know like what a Quentin Tarantino movie looks like, I think that's a great example of one that is fun with it and shows him and having like that genre piece and doing all of his like trademark stuff. Like, it has feet, it has well written dialogue, it has dialogue that's intentionally corny. Yeah, like it has all that stuff included. I think people would think more modern and think like, what's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? And I'm like, that's not my favorite by any means. Like, and it doesn't feel super Quentin Tarantino-y if I'm being honest. Like, it has elements, but yeah, I feel like Kill Bill very much soaks itself in being a Tarantino movie, so I'm not gonna feel upset by that.
I feel like
I mean,
that's
I feel
what
like
Hateful Eight
to
is.
me, Kill Bill's like the classic. This is a Tarantino movie.
Right. Oh no,
Oh,
you're
no.
gonna. Oh God. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so let's stay.
I mean, who's gonna go next?
I'm gonna say none of them because I don't think that unless you're just big into movies, you need to be watching Tarantino movies.
Really?
Yep.
It's a bold move.
So you're not gonna pick it, but what if somebody says like I want to try to get into Tarantino movies? What would you recommend I start with?
But Mason's not gonna be a person to refer
I
to.
know.
You gotta talk to Nathan
Maybe
or
Django. I mean, Django's fine. Inglourious Bastards is light as long as you don't take it too seriously.
I think if that movie may be a little bit too hard because it is like if that's your first one, the subtitles, and it being like if that's your first Tarantino movie and you don't know what you're getting into.
In the bar scene, like from like so many people that I've talked to, that
most people have like this drags that goes on for forever.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Get back here yelling.
I would also go with the Hateful Eight. Like I said, I think that it's his most contemporary.
Wait, so
but
so your choice would be Hateful Eight.
I meant Django.
Oh, okay.
You said Hateful Eight, so we're
yeah,
like.
I'm sorry, my mind's occupied.
Talks about dragging movies. Picks Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
No, Django Unchained, I feel like is his most contemporary style kind of movie. I think it fits more of the typical kind of plot structure that people are used to. I don't remember the only scene in Django I really remember where it felt like they're talking a lot was the dinner was the dinner table scene with DiCaprio and they're all sitting there,
which is not even like the best dinner table scene we've even seen in this podcast.
We've seen plenty of that.
Yeah.
We should be the dinner table podcast.
Boy, have we. But yeah, I go with Django. It's got most contemporary style kind of music. The characters are really interesting, and I think it kind of gets you into Tarantino's excessiveness he likes to indulge in. So yeah, that's gonna be me.
Nathan,
do you have one?
I mean, I like most Tarantino films. They're not like my number one. Like he's not my favorite filmmaker, but yeah, there's none of them that I've ever seen that I thought that he did a bad job of. Hateful Eight, I think is perfectly fine too, which we'll get into the scores on that in a little bit. But if I were to pick one for people to watch, I've not seen enough of them. I guess I would probably say Inglourious Bastards because, I mean, it's Brad Pitt. I mean, if you're talking just people in general, it's got
for the star power of it.
Like the star power is going to help it out quite a bit, and I mean it is just all around solid. It's funny. It's a play on like historical events too. It's got a lot of stuff that I think people would enjoy, even if they're not going to enjoy that usual style of storytelling that Tarantino does.
Yeah, because it is fairly linear in its storytelling overall. Like, other than like the intro at the beginning, which is behind, but again, that's perfectly placed in the movie. There's not really a lot of back and forth like his usual storytelling method is.
Yeah.
So. I say usual, but in thinking back on it, some of his later movies have really been a little bit more linear. I mean, Hateful Eight was, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was. So he's been kind of getting away from that in his...
Hollywood definitely was.
Yeah, he's been getting away from it in his later years, but... Otherwise, what's the other segment other than score? I don't know. I'm all thrown off without my two segments. So.
No, it's just score.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, let's give them scores. Nathan, you're gonna lead the way, my friend.
Maybe it's a little cliche, but I think for me, Hateful Eight's gonna sit at an 8.
I think they did that on purpose. They knew it was gonna be like pretty okay.
This is not our best movie.
It's solid. It's solid, but it is too long. And overindulgent.
I'm not calling him fat. He's saying the movie's fat,
which
is one of our segments.
It is.
I sure wish we had a segment to describe what we were talking
about. Man, I do too.
But we discussed it in our...
Yeah, we already discussed it in the score. That's good.
There we go.
Fat movie's too long. Thin movie's not long enough.
Dale's just got to scratch that itch.
Yeah, perfectly fit is just right. It's the porridge in the middle. Mason.
No, let Nathan continue. He wasn't done. We cut him off.
I mean, no, I'm good.
Okay.
I said enough. It's an 8. It's a Hateful 8.
Yeah. I'm going to say it's a joyous 8. I think that like, Inglourious Bastards I do think is better. I do think that maybe
I think we'll all agree.
Kill Bill 1 might be a little bit better.
It's much better.
I think that
it's not.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was not quite my cup of tea, but this is among the top 3 Tarantino movies. Just happened.
Well, we're wrapping up, so this may be
Um,
time on the.
Anyways, but yeah, it's pretty darn good. On the rewatch, I had actually expected not to enjoy it as much, but I actually was paying a little bit more attention. And Samuel L. Jackson, I know we've already said a lot about him, but he carries this movie so much. His
I feel like
slow
he-
head raises, his hat that he's just always got on. Even after he gets shot, he is carrying this movie and carrying the dialogue the entire time. It's unreal.
I love when he gets shot and like Mannix is telling him how he feels.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I don't care.
Yeah. No, seriously,
Well,
I'm
no,
just
he
bullshitting you.
asks,
He
and
does
then he's
ask
like, no,
him.
I don't. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm cold, but I'm hot at the same time. But you're right, Mason.
Yeah, that's really all I've got. I think that even the little touch of the Mannix character at the very end might go evil at the very end and then kind of just doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know if we deserve that, but like it was a good touch.
They played that up really well too.
They did. I
Like
mean,
talking through the
Well,
whole.
the whole time the girl
deal.
is this devious, like evil person.
Deplorable woman.
Yes, that can get her way. And that's what I think serves all those looks throughout the entire movie too. Like you kind of have this feeling that she had the upper hand periodically because she was ready to get hanged, she was ready to die, but in reality you thought something might be up with her.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then she almost got away with it at the very end, or at least it made you think so.
He's got to play it up for the camera because he knows
This
he's next.
is.
Give it an 8.
This
Come
is
on.
an Hateful Eight minus 2 fat plus 0.5 points. So this is gonna be a 6.5. This movie is not in the typical caliber of what I usually enjoy out of Quentin Tarantino flicks. I think that the elements in Quentin Tarantino for this one was much less enjoyable with me overall. I just had less fun with it for being as long and lengthy as it was. It was a little better on rewatch than I thought it was going to be. I'll be the first to admit that. I was thinking I was going to actually be like closer to like 6 or a 5 even on this one. But I'm going to give it the extra for a 6.5 because the whodunit aspects did play a little bit better than what I enjoyed. The score is just fun. Just for that one. And this is a movie that I've said time and time again I actually would really like to see as a play. Like, as it's written, I think it'd be a really fun play aspect.
They would.
But as a movie, it just tries to do too much with that, so... Oh, and one last side note trivia factor that I totally just remembered on the rewatch.
Is it the guitar?
It's the guitar. So her genuine reaction when whose guitar was it? Do you remember? Like
it was some music.
It was
some
one that was
museum.
just
It was
in there.
well, no, it's like some
No,
musicians.
like in the real world.
Yeah, in the real world, the guitar itself was like I don't know. Let's just say like a Johnny Cash original guitar or something.
Yeah.
It was a very important guitar, and they had it on set. So when he's sitting there and then like he goes to break the guitar, that's the actual guitar. It's not a prop. Like they were gonna switch it up, but they forgot to switch it in between. So whenever she's sitting there freaking out, like whoa, 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 like you notice her voice isn't even like.
Well, Kurt Russell didn't.
smashed
He
it.
didn't know
He
that
didn't
it was
know.
the original.
Right. He
But-
thought it was a
But
prop.
Daisy did.
Right.
Yeah.
So whenever he smashes the guitar in that one scene, when you go back, she like is not even doing a voice anymore. She's like, that's a genuine like her flipping out. That they're like, that is Johnny fucking or whoever's it was guitars. But for the sake of the story, I'm gonna say it's Johnny Cash's. But it was like,
grab it because of the door.
yeah. So that's like, I don't know. It's what Mason feels whenever they flip the Aston Martin or whatever. And
and Skyfall or
Casino
Casino
Royale.
yeah.
Yeah. Mason's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
To be honest, I didn't care whose guitar that was or that it was like authentic, but that's a cool trivia thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
And knowing that they kept the genuine reaction in the movie and it wasn't
Yeah.
I mean, when you
Well-
go back and hear it, it's clearly like just her.
Well, Tarantino does that a lot. In Django, when DiCaprio, he actually slices his hand open when he does the lead or whatever, and he wipes the blood all over that girl's face. Like, that's his actual blood.
Yeah.
All over her face. So, if you've seen The Revenant, DiCaprio gets into his roles a little bit.
Yeah.
I have not seen The Revenant.
It's my least
You
favorite
don't
Tom
need
Hardy
to.
movie.
Oh, it's very long.
Well, isn't it the one that he finally won?
He got his
Yeah.
Oscar for
And he
it.
shouldn't have. I won't lie to you.
I agree.
He definitely
That's
shouldn't
not
have.
the one.
That was a pity award. Like I'm gonna call it for what
Oh,
it
yeah.
is. Like he
They're like,
did
it's
that.
time. Come on.
Just whatever. Give it to him.
He's
It's
brought the movies a lot of
He'll
money.
make. And they're like, we don't want to give it to Quentin Tarantino in his next movie with Leo, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, 6.5. Price, go ahead.
Well, just as I was telling you all, before we watched this movie, I really thought this was going to be a 10 for me before a rewatch. I remember loving this movie. I just watched it half a year ago, something, really liked it. Ordered a new button because I thought I was going to be smashing that button.
That's embarrassing.
And then after doing it on the rewatch, I thought I was going to give it an 8.5. So I was going to do a little joke where I pressed the button and it was like, oh, it's an 8.5, and you all would go crazy. But actually, after talking to you all, surprisingly, even though it is my movie, I am going to bump it down and go along with the other Hateful Eights in the crowd.
Ooh,
and go with an 8 because one of my criteria in those high movie ranks is how rewatchable is it, and this one is like I have to be in the right mood, and it has to be at least 2 or 3 years between viewings for this movie because it is long and it's a lot to sit through. And the end of this movie, like I really did have my phone out. Like whenever the flashback happened is when I did take my phone out and it was half and half. Mm-hmm. And then even the end of the movie where they hang Daisy and everything, I was just, because that's not really what I came to the movie for. What I came for is that middle chunk of the movie where they're all just talking to each other and having those great conversations. That's what I came to the movie for, and on the rewatch I noticed how much there is on the separate sides of that. Like the beginning third and the last third weigh the movie down enough for me to give it an 8. So I did enjoy the movie, and I thought I would give it a 10. I was really wanting to give it a 10 to get up there with Step Brothers, but I just couldn't get it to where it needed to be.
Well, that being said, there's only one thing left to do.
Yeah,
let's figure out what the next movie is. But how do we do that now, boys? New season, new wheel!
Do they even see it? Can you
No,
see it?
they can't see
No,
it.
they've seen the wheel.
Well,
we're gonna put it between, or put it on Dylan.
It's got to be balanced, so it does have to be on the table.
Oh, it has to be on the table.
I mean, I think it.
it should be on the table. Well, unless
I think this
Alright,
is probably.
I'll
Okay.
Nathan's knobbly knees are there.
Yeah, I'm gonna spin it because
His
Mason,
knobbies.
Mason fucked it up last time.
All right. Wait, I was the one who spun it. Thank
Are
you.
you like gonna try and ensure that it doesn't go where you don't want it to? Or something?
I wouldn't know how to do that to begin with.
Where's
but-
the one you don't want it to go? Smash Mouth. What we got? Jojo Rabbit.
It's the one we
So
haven't
it turns
followed.
out when you spin the wheel, it just lands on your thing.
Oh,
That's what it looks
that's the
like.
trick.
I like that.
Okay.
So next week we're gonna be watching Jojo Rabbit.
I already know what I want to complain about that movie though.
I know
Okay.
you do. And I know what you want to complain about.
All right. Complain away. But if you like the content we're putting out now, again we're in proto season. Proto. Which just means we're trying new shit. I don't know. Yeah, we played a game on this one. If you thought that you enjoyed the visual aid of having a game up there and it wasn't too distracting for us, let us know in the comments below. We're trying new stuff. If
Let
you
us
like
know
it,
how
cool.
bad we were at this game.
Oh man, yeah. I'm telling you, there are times I'm just walking in a circle, like down at the bottom of the screen. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you like the content we keep putting out here. We're trying new things to keep you guys engaged and visually interested. Hi, Jill and Annabeth. And otherwise, that's all of our stuff, guys. Make sure to hit the bell. Ding.
Dang.
That's never gonna get old. And that's it. That's our show. Make sure to tune in next
for
week.
Jojo Rabbit next week.
That's what I was saying right at the tail end. before
You weren't
interrupted.
there. It sounded like you were trailing.
No,
I'm glad I killed the momentum for everything. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
We'll see you next week. You can be as fussy as you
Also,
want.
you have to complain about Jojo Rabbit.
There's nothing.
There's nothing to
It's a
complain about.
great movie. It's like, what-
Scarlett, has everybody seen it?
Yeah.
Nathan, have you seen
Yeah.
it?
We all watched it for
Scarlett
the
watched
Oscar
it in
run.
theaters.